Hello everyone, we're back to our week 4 for our quality service management class. We're now on chapter 3. Our topic is the hospitality service delivery system. So we'll be discussing communicating for service, providing seamless delivery system, and managing the guests' wait. So our objectives at the end of this lesson, we'll be able to discuss the importance and uses of information to the hospitality organization. We will be able to plan, design, analyze, and check the hospitality organization's service delivery system, plan and manage the wait, discuss how guests respond when the guest experience fails to meet their expectation. So, what is communicating for service? So, what are the challenges of managing information in the hospitality industry? So, one is managing the information system, the entire system itself, informing the guest, realizing that cues communicate, adding quality and value through information, guest information where it needs to go. So, information and the service product. So, information can be a product. For example, there's a company called FreshPoint in the United States wherein they're a supplier for vegetables, fruits for the hotel industry. So, they predict their orders through based on the demand of their customers. So that's information as a product. Giving employees information that they need. So employees can be our internal customers when it comes to information, because they can give us vital information about the customers on what they need. For example, the housekeeping department can tell us that the room is ready for the guest to occupy. So that's a simple example of information provided to the front office so that they can check in the guest already. Now, it could also be an integrated information system. Sometimes you see a wireless handheld device during order taking, wherein after the waiter takes in your order, the information or your order immediately is prompted to the kitchen, wherein they immediately cook your order. So that's a type of an integrated information system. Now, information and the service setting. Environment and service, and environment as information system. So this is an example of this would be a simple directional sign, wherein you go to a certain hotel and it would immediately tell you. The signs would tell you where the comfort room is, where the playground is. So that it's as simple as that. And there's this what is called the customer provided information. So sometimes when you go to a specific website, before you check in a hotel, they give you a lot of vivid pictures of what you would expect at that hotel or at that destination. Before you go to Disneyland, Disney World, it would show you some of the information in their website, what type of rides are there. So those are customer provided information, and what are the experiences of the customer regarding those attractions or regarding those facilities that the hospitality in a hotel or the theme park provides. So next is the information and the delivery system. So it could be an aiding product wherein a specific customer or a specific information is provided to us or to the employees, on what the customer wants, or customizing a specific customer need. So that's that's what aiding the product means. It could also be advanced technology, wherein a lot of data is provided so that we would know what the customer wants. Daily count means it's as simple as getting the average of customers that we get in a day, so that we can manage them. So if for example you're running a restaurant and your average customer daily is, for example, 50 and your capacity is just 25, then how can you manage that? That's what it means by information, and how we can deliver our system better, or our service better. And then information flow between levels, meaning how does information flow from the top management to the bottom, and bottom to top management. So it's as simple as providing an email so that everybody will know the direction of the company, or the direction of the service, probably a new service that the restaurant or the resort provides, so that the bottom level staff would know on what direction the management is going. So at the same time, for the staff, on what the customers tell them, so that they, or what's the customer feedback, so they can immediately tell their manager. So what system are we providing for that? How does information flow? Next is this information being used as the decision support system, using data to drive decision. So in IT, this is called big data. So this could be using information could be helping you decide through market segmentation. Are there more females coming in than male? More Gen Z booking online rather than baby boomers? So something like that. Another is identification and targeting of best and worst customers. It's customer profiling. You would know who your best customers are, and maybe also know who your worst customers are, so that you would know how to approach them when they enter your hotel or your theme park, maybe. And then we have collaborative filters, meaning it's cooperation, maybe between competitors or inter-industry, about information about certain customers, so you would immediately know what they want. Next is planning the service delivery system. So the influence of the Juran trilogy. So a certain researcher in the 80s, Joseph Juran, created this system, or this framework, to improve the quality planning, quality control, and quality improvement of a specific firm. Particularly here in this scenario, the hospitality industry. So he provided 3 phases: the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So one is planning the service delivery system. Next is monitoring the service experience. And then the phase 3 is assessing the experience to improve the system. So if you see here on the left quadrant, you have the when, what, who, and how. So you would also see here what is being done on phase 1, what is being done on phase 2, and what is being done on phase 3. So just an example. So on the when, this is the phase 1 is before guest arrives and while waiting. So phase 2 is experiencing the guest already experiencing the service, and then phase 3 is after the guest experience. So next is the service delivery system. So one is, of course, planning the system. How do we plan for the delivery of our service? Next is the service standards, setting standards of what it is that guests should be expecting from our establishment. So we have a set standard. What are the service standards? How do we normally serve guests? How do we normally welcome guests? How do we normally check them in? How do we wait on them? So next is the monitoring service experience. So how do we monitor the experience of the guests? Were they happy? How would we know that they're happy? How would we know that they're sad? Or how would we know that they are silently not happy with the service that we provided them? And of course, with monitoring is how do we assess the experience and how do we improve? If we know that they're dissatisfied with our service, how do we improve that? So this is the service delivery system. So if you see here on the slide, you have the phases of service delivery. The activities are written here inside the boxes, and there are those overlapping activities inside it. So the three phases of the service delivery is before the guest experience, during the guest experience, so after the guest experience. If you quantify this in a theme park, for example, so, or let's see, an airline, for example. So before the guest, so before they book in, what was their experience? I mean, before they book their ticket, what was their experience? What was their experience before they fly, and then during in flight, during the guest experiences in flight, what was their experience while riding your airline, checking in your airline, and then what was their experience checking out? So these are the three phases, and you can see you have interlapping activities there, such as plan for and manage customer waits, and here correct service failures and errors. Okay, so we have planning techniques written in this slide, so I will not explain all of them because it will take us a lot of time. But this is also the planning techniques here are not exclusive for hospitality. They are also used in other project management techniques, planning techniques, I mean. So we have here blueprinting, as the name denotes. It blueprints your plan from start to finish. Similar with the universal service map, mapping out the service. A fishbone analysis. It is called a fishbone analysis because it identifies your services and planning, and it illustrates it like a fishbone. You have the PERT CPM, or the critical path method, wherein it shows you the path of a project from start to finish, and it calculates every activity from start to finish and what activities you can. It's called crashing. You can crash so that you can shorten the period of delivering a specific plan. And then you have simulation, as the name it denotes. It's some sort of a simulation so that you would know scenarios and how to plan for them. So how do we prevent problems in planning? Planning for a service, we forecast demand. How many people will be coming in? You don't want to get blindsided by the demand or by the number of people coming in. Of course, training. We have to train our people how to respond from service failures, how to respond to this specific type of guest. And then, of course, we always through training also, we always provide quality teams. As we mentioned in the previous class, how do we motivate employees so that we can create quality teams? How do we train employees to create quality teams? So waiting for service, capacity and psychology, keys to managing lines. So when you wait, of course, one of the challenges in the hospitality and tourism industry is managing the wait, or the queue as we call it, or the line as we were familiar with it. So how do we manage it? One is we predict. Planners must predict three factors: how many people will arrive for the service, at what rate people will arrive, how long service will take. Second is capacity. So what to do? Close doors to further customer. If we have too much customer, we may have to refuse some of them. If the bar, if your bar or restaurant is too full, you might have to drive away some customers just to satisfy your current ones, the ones inside. Or we could add capacity, more seats maybe outside, as what some of the restaurants here in the Philippines do. They add tables outside of the restaurant, or maybe in the foyer. Manage demand and allow lines to form. Third is planning. Design day. So what's the definition of a design day and a capacity day? It's like simulating how your day would go and predicting how many people will come in, and if your attraction or your facility can accommodate it. So, and simulating the average time in queue if they're gonna wait in line. And then setting limits to keep guests happy, because we cannot accommodate so much in a specific attraction or a specific function of a ride, for example, like in Disneyland, wherein you have to fall in line for a specific ride. Okay. So, queuing theory, managing the reality of the wait. So, finding the proper cost-benefit balance. So, there are a lot of theories that are being made here, because you have to calculate how much queue would a customer go through if they avail of a specific service. So we have the queuing theory, waiting in line theory, and then sampling arrival and service patterns of the guest. How many guests are you expecting if you're creating this specific concert? How will they wait? Will they fall in line? Do they have to book online? So these are the proper, these are theories that is being created so as to manage the wait. And then you have to also manage the cost benefit. Cost benefit meaning, if you drive away some of the customer, will you still be hitting your profit mark? Okay. So, characteristic of waiting lines. You would see here the arrival patterns. Number of guests which means number of guests arriving, and the manner in which they enter a line. If it's a single line formation, double line formation, do they have a pre-booking, or do they have a QR code that they need to show you? So queue discipline. So how arriving guests are being served. So are there for example customer service who will have to check in for their tickets, boarding pass, or do they just swipe their phone at a specific counter machine, and no need for anybody to check it, so something like that. So time for service, how long it takes to serve a guest. So here it would show you which queue to use. So planner should select the queue that best provides customer with all of the following. So there are 4 factors. One is sense of progress towards a goal or service experience. Another is sense of control over what's happening. As an establishment, your people should be trained as to how to accommodate guests in line, and then they would also have a sense of control of the line that they're accommodating, and people or your customers should see activity. Otherwise, they'll get mad if they don't see any activity as to how the line is being managed. And then there should be a sense of fairness with how the wait was managed, of course. So balancing capacity and demand. how to accommodate the inevitable lines. What are examples of inevitable lines? For example, you'd be creating a priority lane for the disabled, create an inclusive atmosphere. So how would you accommodate them? How would you accommodate seniors, for example, here in the Philippines, or pregnant women? Plan and manage the wait in such a way that guest is satisfied with it. Even though they're in line, are guests okay? Are they irate? So you should also plan for that. So two major dimensions. A way to that waiting time spent feels to the guest. So you could probably look at their facial expression during their waiting time in line. Are they happy? Are they okay? Or neutral? Neutral may be okay. Not that bad when it comes to waiting in line. Right? So how to maximize the negative effects of wait by managing value of experience to the guests. So how can we manage complaint if a specific or certain guests would complain because they wait too long in a line? So how do we manage that? Managing the perception of the wait. So this time we're trying to manage the perception while waiting. So how guests feel about the wait. So if you look at here, occupied time feels shorter than unoccupied time. So there are those that while you're in line, they're going to give you a survey so that you have something to do while waiting, because an occupied time feels shorter than an occupied time. Time spent waiting to begin the service experience will feel longer than the time actually spent in the experience itself. So similarly, maybe if you're falling in line for a specific type product, it takes time for you to fall in line than to eat your burger, right? So anxious wait feels longer than more relaxed wait. So and a good example of this may be waiting sitting down with a number is better than waiting standing up and you're in a very long line. Okay? Waits of a certain length feel longer than certain ones. So an example of this might be if you have a number and you see a digital number countdown there, wherein everybody is being called to a number. It's better compared to waiting in a very long line and it's not moving. Next is unexplained wait feels longer than unexplained ones. Similar to my last example. Then unfair wait feels longer than fair ones. If you allow, for example, in a line, you allow somebody to go in front because of a specific scenario. So it might feel unfair to some of the customers. And for example, no one is enforcing it at your end. So that would the ones at the back would feel that the line is not being regulated fairly. Next is solo wait feels longer than group wait. That's a fact. Then uncomfortable waits feel longer than comfortable ones. Interesting waits are shorter than uninteresting ones. How this is one good input, because as a manager of a specific establishment, how do you make waits interesting so that the line would feel shorter? Next is happy waits are shorter than sad ones. Similar to the interesting. Disney has a very good example of how to manage their wait, which can be found at our case study. So that's about it for our session today. I'll see you for our last session with a similar topic, but part 2.